Have you ever gone through a really frightening period and then later God comes through and you look back and you're like, wow, I wish I would have held tight to God's promises better. I wish I would have demonstrated stronger faith. I think we can all feel that way at times, but I'm encouraged to know that I will not be the same person tomorrow that I am today. To know that my faith will be stronger tomorrow than it is today, because in every moment, in every season, and in the storms of life especially, God is growing and building my faith. He is teaching me more about himself and what it looks like to trust in him. And I was thinking about that when I consider how he grew the disciples, and particularly how they went through two really frightening situations where they were caught in a storm twice. Now, the first time, so let me go ahead and read. Jesus had been teaching, he's with his disciples, he'd been speaking in parables, and when evening came, so this is Mark chapter 4, starting in verse 35, when evening came, he said to them, his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd, they took him along with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat, so much that the boat was already filling up. Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he got up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And the wind died down and it became perfectly calm. So that was the first time. So Jesus is with them in the middle of the storm. And yes, there is an analogy. He is with us in all of our storms as well. Well, then later, after about a third of his ministry, so after they'd probably been with him at least for a year, and they had just found out some really devastating, painful news. And Jesus is like, "Okay, let's go. We're gonna get away by ourselves." Well, they get away, and everybody follows. And they spent the day teaching him. And then, after this long, exhausting, difficult day, Jesus sent the crowds away. So this is Matthew chapter 14. He went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when it was evening, he was there alone. But the boat was already, so boat that the disciples were in, without Jesus, the boat was already a long distance from the land, battered by the waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, so the middle of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost," and they cried out in fear. But immediately, I love that, immediately, Jesus spoke to them saying, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." And here is why I find this passage significant. Yes, they were afraid. Jesus knew they were going to be afraid. He knew they were in the storm. He knew they were in the storm the first time because he was lying in the boat, sleeping. He knew they were in the storm the second time because he was on top of that mountain, and he could probably see them throughout. I don't know how many hours they were out in that storm. His timing was perfect. Why would he have allowed them? Why would he go up to the mountain? Why would he allow them to be in that boat, in that storm? He was teaching them, he was bringing them to yet one step deeper in their faith. He was preparing them for what he knew lay ahead. He knew that they were about to have this massive, life-changing, history-making assignment to launch the church. And so he was building them step by step, knowing precisely what they would need at each moment. And he didn't let them drown. He could see them the whole time, and he came to them at the perfect time. And he quieted the storm. And I want to remember that there are times, yes, I'm maybe here in my faith and I want to be here, but God is going to bring me. He is going to build my faith. And then also to remember, he is using my circumstances today. He doesn't create the chaos in our lives. He doesn't create the pain in our lives, but he will use them to grow us, to strengthen us, to teach us to rely on him, to seek him in our storm, and to rely on him and to depend upon him when we are afraid. And as we do, we come to know him a little better, and our faith grows that much deeper. I am so thankful that he doesn't expect me to go from 0 to 60, that he knows where I'm at right now. And he is lovingly walking beside me, preparing me for his hope-filled plans ahead. And I know he's doing the same for you.